Hey guys, K2's Retro Workshop. I know it's been a while since I posted. I was finishing up my master's degree, but we are going to talk about this color classic. Now, before you click away because you think it's just another color classic video, I have managed to actually finally perform the cache upgrade on this thing that I wanted to do quite a while back. And I'm going to go into more details about what the performance benefits are, how I did it, and just what that opens up for us as far as gaming and utility and stuff like that. So it was a pretty significant performance bump. I'm gonna have this guy at VCF next week, so if you want to take a look at it, play with it, check it out, I will be there. I know, freaking time server. It'll be there to play with, to use, and yeah, let's take a look at some benchmarks real quick before we get into the kind of hardware nitty-gritty on this. Alright, benchmarks. We all love benchmarks. And zoomed in on this screen at 1080p, it looks a lot worse than it does in person. I promise this is actually a pretty clean looking monitor. So here we have basically all the iterations that we've gone through on this machine. We have in yellow our 68040 benchmark. It's the lowest one here, just is what it is. The only place that it exceeds everything else is down here on the disk benchmarks, and that's simply because something to remember while we're looking at all of these is that the 68040 is a 32-bit processor on a 32-bit bus. So if we need to make a transfer, we transfer 32 bits of data, and then we move on. The PowerPC, on the other hand, has 64-bit registers. So we transfer the first half, and then we have to wait for the second half. This is why this is so much slower. The PowerPC card has to always transfer in 64-bit chunks. So we have to always wait for that second transfer. Now that second transfer doesn't take twice as long. We can just flip to the next page in memory and it's pretty quick. But it does reduce our throughput as we have to wait for that second transfer. In fact, an interesting thing that I've noticed here in the workshop is that my 16 megahertz 68030 Classic 2 gets obliterated by my 16-bit 68000 PowerBook 100 when it comes to unstuffing an archive or something like that, because of this same situation here, where the 68000 on a 16-bit data bus can just pull data and move on, and yeah. Anyway, so in purple here at 111, we have our PowerPC processor at 66 megahertz and 256K of level 2 cache. This was the original upgrade, decent upgrade, but this is also the one that didn't work with the upgraded level 2 cache. In blue here, we have 132 points going for 100 megahertz on this new card. We did also do 133 megahertz, and we got 146. Now you'll notice a 50% clock bump here only gave us 19 points, and then, we only got, 13 points with a 33% clock bump going up to 133. Now this pink line is not stable. I upped the voltage on the processor a little bit, which was kind of a pain in the butt, but really, you hook an oscilloscope to it and the waveforms and stuff just look terrible. This 133 megahertz configuration will never be stable on this card. There's just not going to be a way to do that. Even if you swap the processor for a 120 megahertz model or something, the layout of the power card just isn't there for it. And this 181 here, the green line, is our PowerPC card back at 100 megahertz, but with 1 meg of level 2 cache. You'll notice here it is a massive bump in performance for the same clock speed. And yeah, this is the configuration that it's currently running, and it works really well. The machine is noticeably faster, and because we have that increased level 2 memory, we have less cache misses. So We can store more. PowerPC programs are very heavy. They're much bigger than their 68040 predecessors. So we have to move a lot of data. We have to calculate a lot of things. If you take Doom for an example, Decino's done a bunch of stuff on how much actually goes on behind the scenes, random number generation, calculating ticks, all this stuff. We have more of a chance with 1 megabyte to keep that all in level 2 cache versus having to go to the main memory every time. So there it is. And yeah, so we ended up with an almost 50% performance improvement at the same clock speed by just going from 256K to 1 megabyte. So let's look at the hardware side of this. So here's our motherboard. This isn't necessarily anything special. We got 32 megs of RAM. We've got our high-speed VRAM here, COM slot, Ethernet adapter, and our PowerPC upgrade card. Whew, still warm. The thing that you'll notice is different on here is that there's typically on this card a couple of extra pads open here, and these are all full. I have swapped out 32K chips for 128K chips in here, giving us 1 meg of level 2 cache. Now, this didn't work on the original 66 megahertz model. This brand right here, I think, is a huge indicator as to whether or not it'll work, but I'm going to show you which pins to check for, and I need to get under this heatsink real quick to know if it'll work or not, basically. And it should be a pretty easy check. The original ones, the data lines, the address lines that came out extra here, they didn't go anywhere, so we couldn't do anything with it. One of them would dead end at the power card, and then another one, I believe, went to the input of a GAL chip that's underneath here, and you have two inputs connected to one another, so it just didn't work. Let me get this cache card and this power card off, and then I'll show you exactly how to tell whether you can do the upgrade or not. Alright, so you want to know if you can do this upgrade. Now, remember, on your setup, these pads here, 4 of these top ones are going to be empty. The ones directly adjacent to the top of the chip, you're going to want to check, and you want to check on this bus driver here. Out of this whole array, we have 2 connections here that matter. So you have that one, and over here, you'll have another one, and it'll be right next to it. If those make continuity, you can very likely do this upgrade. Now, it's not just swapping the chips out. If you swap the chips out and it immediately stops trying to boot and gives you a little car crash sound, you have a problem. But you should be able to swap in the 128K chips on here, and then when you turn this guy over, you've got to move this resistor, and this resistor to here, here, and here. 2 of these hook up this tag RAM address line, the top 2 address lines. 2 of those connect them. You disconnect them from just being grounded, and you connect them to pins on this board here, on the connector. So it actually exposes them so they can be used. The other resistor is what tells this card that a 1 megabyte version has been installed. So if you've got all of that, you've got the ability to do this upgrade. Now, the chips that I used here, you should be able to see the part numbers right there if you want to try to look these up. Last I looked, these were discontinued on Mouser. I'll link to what I bought on there, so if you want to try to find some replacements, you can. I'll look a little bit to see if I can actually find them, but it might be a few weeks before I actually have time to do a real in-depth search for that. So, yeah, fun times. All right, let me put this all back together, And then we'll actually get into some programs, and I'll show you how much faster this really is. Sorry for the dead air you just heard. I'm going to go ahead and load this up. What I'm doing right now is I'm actually syncing the beginning of the gameplay with one another, because I want you to see how different the load speeds really are when it comes to this game. It really is just a completely different machine with this upgrade like it is. That's huge. Anyway, so I'm going to show you the difference in gameplay here. I mentioned Doom earlier, so I feel like it would be a great way to showcase the massive difference between even just a Mystic upgrade and this. The other screen that you're seeing is the 68K version running, and to be fair, this is a bit of an unfair test. In running this test, I am kind of curious now. Today, I have arriving from UPS a Daystar Power Cache module for my Quadra 700. And maybe I'll do a little video on that. I'm kind of curious now how the 68K keeps up with this kind of workload with a level 2 cache. Because right now, we're kind of comparing apples to oranges, because you have the original 68K on one side of the screen, and then you have the Power PC on the other. But that aside, there's a whole lot that has to go on behind the scenes and even in front of you with these games. These textures, instead of having to load them over and over and over again from RAM, we could potentially be pulling them from level 2 cache, because we have the amount of cache needed for that. The little sound clips, it's possible that that's also going to be a cache hit. So performance is improved significantly just because of that. This looks really good. I don't know that I would play this with the 040, but with this is fully playable Doom. And if you guys have any ideas of games and stuff you'd want me to try, send them my way. At the show, I'm going to have StarCraft, I'm going to have Diablo, I'm going to have a few other games on here, and, they all play really well. So if there's something that maybe you've got a 66 megahertz model and it doesn't quite play enough and you want to know if it's worth it to upgrade, let me know. I'll try it out. I can't, unfortunately, try on the 66 megahertz model anymore, because I did have to get rid of that. But, so here we are. Low Color Classic. She's fast as heck. I realized after I started this video that I have kind of a hard time being able to showcase 66 megahertz versus 100 megahertz, and it's 256K cache versus not. I'm gonna have to go back through some of my old footage and see if I can maybe post a quick benchmark video that just shows a couple of comparisons with games I've tried before and see how those play out. But yeah, this is it. 100 megahertz, 1 meg of cache, works great. If you can do the upgrade, I highly recommend it. And if you come by at VCF, I'll be happy to see you there. So yeah, here we go. Here's Diablo. This game plays so much better, and it's actually full speed now. So no real lag, even when I'm fighting monsters and stuff. It's full speed. You're still playing Diablo on a 9-inch screen, but that's alright, because it's still fun. But it's actually full speed, and this is actually the game that I really wanted to make sure I got running on this machine. This has been my ultimate goal since I got this Power PC upgrade years ago, was to be able to have this playable, and it is. So there we are. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to posting more videos now.